would you say if I told you we could engineer a generous society? Welcome back to the Idea Supply Chain, where we take a look at where ideas come from and what makes those ideas valuable. In today's video, I wanted to talk about the idea of engineering generosity. So, I've been writing a book on systems and how we can make them more human centric. And one of the things I've realized is that this is really where generosity comes from, and specifically in the form of building abundant systems. So perhaps you've heard of abundance in terms of like an abundance mindset versus a scarcity mindset. And it's basically the idea that you don't have to worry about like hoarding resources. You can kind of freely give because there's plenty to go around. And this is a great mindset to have. But I think the biggest problem here is that we're putting too much pressure on individuals to change their entire way of thinking. And the reality is, people's way of thinking is a direct response to the environment that they're in. And so, because we've got all of these scarce systems in place, people think with a scarcity mindset. So let's take a look at a system. So what is a system? A system is basically a group of people working toward a goal. Let's use that as the definition of a system for the time being. It's not particularly like mathematical or, particularly exact, but that's okay. It'll work for now. So you've got a group of people working toward a shared goal. Now, in an abundant system, the whole purpose of setting it up with abundance is that everybody in the system will grow over time in terms of like value created. Now, if you think about this in terms of, let's say, a business where you also have a group of people working toward a shared goal, you won't find that, right? In fact, typically you have someone at the top who says, okay, here's a budget to work with. And then that goes down to, a boss who's like, okay, well, I've got this budget, so I need this headcount in order to accomplish this project, which should return this amount on the investment that we're putting in. And basically it says there's a limited number of resources and we're going to distribute those how we see fit. And because I'm the boss, I get more because I'm distributing it. So that's essentially how it works, right? It's top down. And so we make sure that the person at the top gets their fair share. And then we see whatever's left for the people down below. And so you have this trickle down effect of sorts. Although, again, not all of it trickles down. Everybody's got to get their cut. Now, compare that with how this could look in an abundant system. So instead of top-down resource allocation, it can say, hey, how much do you need in order to accomplish this goal? Now, this can be different numbers for different people. And then basically you get people to agree on something that works and then you work toward achieving the next goal. Now, this doesn't really fit with the current employment practices because it doesn't really figure out who does what, who adds, who has these trackable metrics that people can understand and pass up to the bosses and so on. But one place you actually kind of see this is in the creator economy, right? So you've got these creators that start to grow over time. They start to build an economy around them. And so they kind of start off doing everything. And then as they can, they start outsourcing bits and pieces. And eventually they've got this whole big ecosystem that is kind of growing and evolving over time. And that's actually one of the really interesting things about abundant systems versus scarce systems. Abundant systems evolve over time and become more efficient. So in the beginning, you've got a creator who's doing everything. They may not be good at everything, but they do everything because they don't have the resources to outsource typically. And so over time, they start gaining resources and they start feeding that back into the ecosystem. And so the ecosystem becomes more efficient. It becomes more specialized. and you bring in these different uh, basically symbiotic participants into this system that's getting created. Now let's look at the other extreme, and we'll say government. So government is the ultimate scarce system in the sense that everything becomes way more expensive over time because it has to go through more and more checkpoints, more and more. Okay, you've got to fill out this form, and then because you have to fill out this form, there's someone who has to take this form, and then that passes off to somebody else, and so you get this like bureaucracy, right? It builds up over time, it grows more complex, it becomes less efficient because every layer that you add in a higher cost for communication, right? And so when you're coordinating multiple people in a system, the biggest cost in that system is the cost of communication. And in typical systems, when you're looking at all sorts of weird power dynamics at play, that increases the cost of communication because it reduces what you can say. I mean, how honest can you be with your boss? Can you tell them everything that you're feeling and thinking? Probably not. If you can, good for you. That is awesome. You've got a solid relationship there. But for most people, that's not the case. And I know this firsthand because I tried to share things with my boss. And guess what? I got fired because the stuff I was thinking about wasn't really in line with what they felt I should be thinking about and doing. And so, that's the type of shit that happens in a scarce system. So when we're looking at abundant systems, what we see is that instead of people being there because that's just kind of how the system is, people are all there by choice. You want to be part of this system because being part of this system is beneficial to you. Most people are only part of like the businesses that they're part of because they need to eat. And so we've got this whole idea of like, okay, well, pay people the minimum amount possible so that they'll stick around and not look for other jobs. And then there's all this added complexity in there. It's a pain in the ass. It's all bullshit. And that's why I'm really looking forward to bringing about abundant systems where people can have better choices. They can choose where to go. They can be in the system that is most beneficial to them, not whatever system happens to accept them as a participant for now, at least until their plans change and they get rid of you because you're no longer in the budget. And that's the type of like scarce thinking that we really need to do away with. And the creator economy shows us what's actually possible when you start building abundant systems. And I've got some ideas in mind that I'm going to be playing with. I've got to chat with some people to see what's feasible, what's not. But I have a lot of ideas that I can try to implement while I'm writing the book on engineering generosity to showcase how it's possible to build systems that are naturally generous in nature, paying above market rate, if you will, because of the fact that I know it's a system that's going to grow and evolve over time. It's going to become more efficient. And so I can pay an inefficiency now to gain long-term efficiency in the future. That's one of the other things about scarcity. Scarcity is this idea that I've got to get what I can today because there's no guarantee of tomorrow. Whereas like with abundant systems and abundance mindsets, it's I can do the right thing for the long-term play because I feel confident that tomorrow's going to come and the day after that and the day after that. And with a lot of the systems we have, it's not currently possible to think that way. It's something I'm struggling with right now. Like I know I'm doing what's right long-term, but how long do I have before I need to worry about the short term? It's a constantly fluid situation. I've really got to figure some things out around that. And so it's really hard for me to think in this like abundant system when I've got, scarce resources available to me. And so really figuring out how I can help people build abundant systems and use that to build my own abundant systems. It's really something I'm looking at, and I've got a bunch of ideas that I'm playing around with. But if you're watching this and you want to hear more about how to build an abundant system, let me know. I kind of want to do some like coaching and consulting around that, either like building abundant systems in your personal life. I do a lot of coaching and especially building like the 0 to 1 kind of segment, I'm really good at helping people get started, overcoming, kind of fears and worries and, figuring out what's what. I'm really good at that part. So if you need help with that, let me know. Or if you're a business who wants to start thinking in more abundant ways, if you want to start thinking about systems that naturally grow and evolve, so that your business grows and evolves and requires less and less like input and resources from you in order to do so, um, let's chat, because I really think that there is a much better way to build out the systems that we create and do so in a way that truly values humans at the value that they deserve and can help us really go into a future that is flourishing for everybody involved. And that's ultimately the end state that I'm looking to create. So, anyway, let me know how that sounds. If that's something you're interested in, hit me up, let me know, we'll chat. And then we'll work together to build abundant systems that can benefit everybody. Anyway, that's it for today. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.